AV in your ears. That's Ambush Vid giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world. With my boy Steve, Fascination Street. You already know. Let's get it when you whip in the Fascination Street. What do you...
Welcome back for the sixth time to Fascination Street Podcast, the world's only certified keto podcast. Welcome back, Vinnie Tortorich. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, man. And Steve, really, have I been on this show 6 times now?
The closest, this is the sixth episode, or the sixth, yes. The first one was a two-parter, but I just count that as one. But yes, this is your sixth appearance. More than anybody else. The most anybody else has been on is 3, and that's Paul Feig.
Wow. So I've finally beaten Paul Feig at something. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. That guy is awesome.
Dude's rad.
You know, it's crazy. You're familiar with the Adam Carolla show, but we kind of met through that, right? Mm-hmm. And he has a guy who, I guess he works for the show now. His name is Giorgio
Giovanni. Yeah.
Yeah. And they call him Gio for short.
Mm-hmm.
Super nice guy. Have you ever met him?
I haven't met him in person. I've interacted with him either social media or email or some shit like that. He's a super cool dude.
He would be an interesting interview. I'm not telling you who to interview, but
I don't interview interesting people. I interview fascinating people.
Fascinating people, yeah. So I think he fits in the category of fascinating. But he was telling me one time, he goes, you're the third most, recurring guest on the Adam Carolla show. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I mean, come on. You got like your David Allen Greer's, you got your
Dr. Drew's.
Well, no, Dr. Drew doesn't count.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because Dr. Drew is part of but as a guest, right? And it was obscure people, right? It was the guy that worked for Rolling Stone magazine for a long time. David Weil, who I actually know a little bit. David's been on over 100 times. And someone else. And then I was like 98. I had 98 appearances, which was shocking to me that I was on that show 98 times. And I'm coming up again. So I'm getting close to 100. But the thing is people say to me, okay, you're a podcaster for a living. And it's like, and they get fascinated by the fact that I've done like 2,500 podcasts.
Of your own, yeah.
Of my own. And when I explained to them, I've probably doubled that doing other people's shows. Because anyone who will ask me whether you're brand new, I think you and I recorded the first one and you weren't even up and running yet.
That's correct.
Yeah, you came out to LA and said, hey, I'm this guy. And as a matter of fact, I didn't know you. So I said, meet me at a Starbucks. You're not coming to my house. I don't, it was that kind of thing. Right?
Absolutely. You have a good memory because that was 7 years ago. Good job.
Yeah, I don't forget you. I mean, you were an interesting guy and you were like, yeah, I'm here and I'm interviewing a lot of people and some pretty heady people in that group. And I was impressed. And to know that I've been on 6 times now is I find amazing. Mike Rowe is bringing me for the 3rd time, and I think I'm only one of 3 guests, and not including his mom.
Sure.
But I'm amongst like 2 or 3 guests that's been on more than twice.
Love it.
I like that people like me. Does that make sense? I mean,
it does make sense. Yeah.
I'm not a likable guy.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm really not. I mean, I'm going through life kind of as a nerd. And
well, don't forget you are known as the angriest trainer. So it's not like you're the friendliest trainer. You're the angriest one.
I'm not.
You're not easy to like.
Steve, I'm not known as the angriest trainer. I gave myself that title. So it's not like,
actually, if I remember correctly, it was Serena that gave you that title.
Yes. We were trying to find a catchphrase when we first started the podcast. And I was like, we need to call it something. And she goes, well, you're angry about what's going on out there. And I went, yes, I am. And she goes, well, let's call you the angriest trainer. And I was like, all right, I guess. And I hung on to that moniker for a couple of years. But then when I started getting interviewed by, television talk shows and everything, the first thing that would come out of their mouth is, "You're the angriest trainer. You don't seem so angry." And they would waste half of my
Oh,
8
yeah.
interview on me explaining that I'm not really angry. So I tried to drop it. And, but yeah, that, when you go, they call you the angry, no one calls me that. I called myself that, you know.
Okay, Vinny, we're gonna get into it now that I've wasted enough time talking about the Angus Trainer.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do something here.
And ladies and gentlemen, streetwalkers, when I said just offhandedly, I said Serena came up with that. That's Vinny's wife, previous guest of the show, and Bond girl, the lovely and effervescent, and also she does voiceovers in every single one of Vinny's movies. Her name is Serena Scott Thomas. She is amazing, and they have been a couple for quite some time. But
Yeah.
we're here.
If you count just all the years of just living together and all of us, we're coming up on 18 years.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think
That
it
is
is.
well, I mean, for her to put up with you is what I meant. So,
F you, man.
you can say it. You can say it. Okay, Vinny.
Yeah.
Um, on your podcast, which we talked about a second ago, it's called Fitness Confidential. Like you said, you've recorded over 2,500 episodes, well over, and you're like 12, 13 years into this thing. You open every single episode by saying, and I quote, "Your good intentions have been stolen." What does that mean, and why do you say it?
Yeah, when it comes to, diet and exercise and losing weight, I was and still am in the industry for 40 plus years. And during that time, I watched everything come and go. Even before I was in the industry, I was always into health and fitness as a kid. And I would buy into the products. Folks, this didn't start with the internet where people are going, take this powder, take that pill, take. Back in the 70s when I would read Joe Eater magazine, and Muscle and Fitness and all that kind of stuff, you're a young kid. I was like 12, 13. It's like, wow, these guys have major muscles. It never occurred to me that they were taking a drug to look that way. And they're going, just, put this protein powder in milk and you'll look just like me. Right. So as a 12 and 13-year-old, I bought into all of it and quickly learned that, my wallet was lighter than anything else. And I said, well, this isn't working. And by the way, all of that stuff was bought with my own money when I was a kid. I would go sell vegetables. We had a big family garden. I would sell vegetables and go do odd and end jobs to make money to go buy these products.
Isn't it funny that you could have just saved yourself the time and hassle and just ate the vegetables?
Oh, and I was doing that too because they talked about this. Oh, you have to have vegetables and eat a lot of lean chicken, but that's not going to work. You're not going to get these big muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger unless you take this powder, right? Or take these liver pills and all this different kind of stuff. So it was like, yeah, I had good intentions here and they've been stolen from me. I was lied to and I bought these products. And as once I got my degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, I started looking around going, man, everything out there is bullshit. I would literally buy women's fitness magazines and a magazine called Fitness and Shape and all these different magazines because I was fascinated on what the article says. Like this scientist says this and that scientist says, like, oh my God, this is so far from the truth. So that's how I started my business back in New Orleans, where I was just working with people and explaining, look, all the things you think are true are not. These are just, and then I started collecting the magazines. And by the way, folks are going, magazine. Yeah, magazines used to be a big deal, right? There was no internet or anything else. Because I'm a nerd, I would collect the magazines and I would cross-reference within the same year. It's like, okay, Shape Magazine was saying this back in October. Now we're in November, and they're saying just the opposite. And I was able to mix and match articles because I have this disease where I don't forget anything I read. But sometimes I would have to go, which magazine was that in? And go through a bunch of magazines to find it. but that was the beginning of me saying, man, I work in an industry full of bullshit. Like everything is bullshit. And that was the beginning of your good intentions have been stolen.
Got it. Thank you. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy things. Ladies and gentlemen, 2013, Vinny's book, Fitness Confidential, came out. It was a roaring success. If I understand correctly, it was so much of a success, you were able to buy the rights back to it. Is that right? Do you own that book all by yourself with no publisher?
No, I never, what I did was I never used a publisher.
Oh, I was thinking of Monty, your first book. That's
Yeah,
what I was thinking.
Monty,
Okay.
my first, boy, you really do your homework. My children's book, I was able to buy the rights back from the publisher, and I own the right. I always own the images, but I didn't. Once you sell to a publisher, they own the rights, and I was able to
Right.
get the rights back from the publisher. And I am working on putting out a new version of Monty, an updated version, a better version, I think. But we'll come back on the show for a seventh time to talk
Oh,
about.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, Fitness Confidential, I was offered several deals by big companies, names like Simon and Schuster and HarperCollins, and they all wanted me to do the same thing. They loved the book, but they wanted me to cut it in half and flesh out the two halves and give them two books, a two
Hmm.
book deal. And I think any author would go, "Oh my God, Simon and Schuster is offering me a two-book deal," and take the deal. But my question was why? And they said, well, half of it is autobiographical and the other half is, kind of a book about how to lose weight. That's two books. And I said, well, why can't we sell it like this? And they said, well, we don't know which shelf to put it on in a bookstore. And I said, so that's your biggest problem. That's why you're willing to offer me cash up front to write two books. Yes. Okay. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And they said, well, why do you feel that way? And I said, well, because the biggest bookshelf in the world is a little something called Amazon. Haven't you guys heard of Amazon? And they were like, yeah, but we want to get it in Barnes and Noble. And it's like, that's done. Are you guys not aware that that's over with?
So you guys want to get it in that last Barnes and Noble? Okay, cool.
And here's the funny part. And I'm going to name drop here. So get ready. Get ready to pick up a name right off the floor. Um, I said, why is it so important to release it to Barnes and Noble? Say, well, we'll sell it in New York, and if you sell X amount of copies in 1 week, you'll be on a New York Times bestseller list. And I was like, okay. So here comes a name drop. My friend my friend Howie Mandel had just had a book come out called "Here's the Deal, Don't Touch Me," and that book made the New York Times bestseller list. And I asked Howie, I said, how many books have you sold? He said, less than 10,000. It was a New York Times bestseller and he sold less than 10,000. The book was a flop. And I went, okay, so all they care about is getting me on a bestseller list. All I care about is getting this book in people's hands. So I took the book myself. I self-published it. I put it on Amazon and my entire audience seemingly went out and bought it on day one, which moved it into some algorithm onto Amazon. And then other people started buying it, and it stayed at the top of Amazon for literally 6 or 7 months, where instead of making like $1 per book, like you would through a publisher, the book was selling, I don't know, $14 or $16. I was making about $10 a book. I was literally getting wealthy. And it was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I kept going, okay, this train is going to stop. And then a year came. And then a year and a half came, and 2 years came, and the book was still selling like hotcakes. You said I put it out in 20, so we're 11 years away from that
Hmm.
release.
Yeah,
The book still sells, which is the most amazing thing, is nowhere near the top like it was.
sure.
But it's a 11-year-old book. I don't want to say, and here we are, and it turns out they were wrong and I was right.
Why do you think it Why do you think it was so successful and still continues to be successful? What do you think about it was the magic sauce?
If I'm being completely honest, I'm gonna have to lie.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think because there's a story of a triumph story in it, because I talk about my getting cancer and beating cancer. So it resonates with people that get cancer. Other people say, you got to read this book. You know, cancer is not a death sentence. This guy got cancer and ended up doing this, all these incredible things on a bicycle. And I think part of it is that. Part of it is it was the beginning of the low carb movement. No one was really talking about it back then. And, tens of thousands of people, now hundreds of thousands of people use that book as a kicking off point of low carb.
Sure.
There's a bunch of things in it. But if you're asking me to put my finger on why and how it sells, I have no idea.
Cool. That's awesome. It's magic.
It is. And by the way, one of the things, the book is 11 years old, and I've, like, aforementioned, I've been on Mike Rowe's show twice. I'm going on for a third time. They want to talk about the book.
Isn't that amazing? They want to talk about this old tired ass book from 2013. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's crazy. But I'm going on to talk about the movie we're going to talk about today.
Sure.
But Chuck, his producer, said, "Hey, we hear a lot about this book." And I said, "Chuck, I'll just send you a copy." And yeah, we want to talk about this too.
Nice.
So it's kind of like a double whammy.
I love it. Um, well, much like that, we talk about from where you were to where you are, and we're going to talk about some of the other things. In 2019, you put out a documentary called Fat, a documentary with directed by previous guest of the show, I think two-time previous guest of the show, Peter Curtis Pardini, who I think now lives in Austin, which is crazy.
Right.
And then a couple years later, 2021, you put out Fat 2, directed by yourself. I do want to say that Fat, the first one, Fat, a documentary, believe it was the biggest film the Gravitas Pictures had ever put out, or something like
Yeah.
that.
I don't know if it still is, but at that time it was the number one film that Gravitas picked. It was the number one grossing film, and it's a documentary. That's the crazy part.
That's amazing.
Your audience is going to think we're making this shit up, folks. Numbers don't lie. They took this documentary on and put it out worldwide. It was on 70 VODs around the world. I refuse to let them sell it to Netflix or Hulu or any of those places, because once you do that, not the whole world can see it. This thing was on, people would send me pictures. Hey, I'm on Malaysian Airlines, and look, it's on Malaysian Airlines. That's pretty cool shit. And when the president of Gravitas calls and says, this is the number one movie, I went, oh my God, I got the number one documentary. And he goes, no, 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 no. This is the number one movie we've ever released. I'm still shocked by that. I'm sure other films have beat it now. As a matter of fact, it came out the same year as Free Solo, which got documentary of the year and won an Oscar and all that. We toppled those guys on, I want to say, Apple platform or whatever platform that thing was big on. We toppled them for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then the Aretha Franklin thing toppled us. And then Free Solo came back. Free Solo was just a juggernaut. And I loved it. As a matter of fact, I've watched it 2 or 3 times. I can't get enough.
Sure. Yeah. Because you climb. I'm not going to say you climb fucking rock faces, but you do climb mountains and shit like that, right?
Yeah,
still?
and I rocked climb, but I did it the wussy way, with rope. So if you fall, the rope
Gay.
yeah. Yeah. But I was a rock, I still do mountaineering, but not, I do light, what I call light mountaineering, like, where you need ice picks and stuff, but it's only to steady yourself, like on Mont Blanc and those kind of places. But it's funny. About a year ago, I bought a pair of rock climbing shoes because I sold all of my rock climbing equipment. And I promised myself I'd go to this local gym, this indoor rock climbing gym, and just get my skills back as a 61-year-old man. And I've been looking at those shoes hanging in my office for a year, and I can't bring myself because I know I won't have that level that I had when I was 30. That yeah, I know it's not there, and I shouldn't be scared of it. But if you ever ask the question, what scares you, is not going to a rock climbing gym, but going there and realizing that you're not that guy anymore.
I would have thought that there isn't anything that scares you. And that's a really sweet and precious thing that does scare you. It's
Yeah.
yourself. You're scared of your previous self, your younger self. That's funny.
Yeah, I get reminded of it. We were talking about my abs off the air a little while ago, so I can fake it and show you some great looking abs. But I look at my body and go, can I still? Because rock climbing takes every bit of all of your body to do it right, and it's a concerted effort. It's a dance on a rock, right? And I see it when I mountain bike. I see the loss. I see it. I can't, with kayaking and all that. I see it. I'm not as strong as I used to be. And I don't know if I want to go rock climbing to see that, oh, yeah, I suck at that too. Or not suck, but I'm not the guy I was. And
Sure.
I just have to I need to make peace with that and just go after this current thing I'm going through. I'm going through another health crisis. So maybe I'll make it like my thing to do right after this.
Sure. You got to have a goal, right?
Yeah.
So, like we were talking about, the film Fat, the documentary came out in 2019, but you shot so much for that film that you had enough left over to make Fat 2, which came out in 2021. And then 2022, the very next year, you put out Beyond Impossible. Um, again, directed by you. What were the effects of your social media when you put that out? What happened to your Instagram numbers?
And with Beyond Impossible,
Uh-huh.
yeah, they started to drop immediately.
What do you mean?
Well, um, I don't pay very close attention to the social media platforms. I just like putting stuff up every day, just, hey guys, here's a little free tidbit of information, right? That can help you with your day. And at the end of every one of them, I would say, hey, stay motivated. And you've seen them, right, Steve? You've
Uh-huh.
seen
Yeah.
my Instagram. It's just a motivational piece to help people along. It's free, it's fun. And at the time when I started to do the everyday thing, I think my Instagram was like at 25,000 people or something. And when I started putting these things out, I watched it grow. It went to 30 and 40 and 50 and 60. And it was right at 100,000. It was like at 99,000 and something. And then I put that movie out. And my Instagram started to flatten out. I never made it to 100,000. And that's when I started noticing it's like, why? So when you have a professional account, you can see all of the dashboard, I guess, on the back end. And it would show that it wasn't showing it to anyone outside of the people that had already, so it wasn't showing it to new people at all. Not only that, but people started writing to me, hey man, what did I do to you? Why did you take me off of, why did you cancel me from your Instagram? And I was like, I didn't do any of the such.
You're all, I don't even know how to do that, guy.
I don't know how to cancel people out. So I started hearing that more and more, and I started noticing that the numbers started coming down. 99,000 became 98,000, 97. And when it got down to like 94,000, I just stopped. I said, you know what? They're not showing it outside of my audience. This is bullshit. You know, I just stopped for like 3 or 4 months. And during that period where I wasn't putting anything up, I got my guy who's a really good IT guy. And I said, hey, what's going on here? You hear the word shadow banned, and I know I've been shadow banned on Wikipedia, and we know that they do it to me on YouTube. Are they doing it here too? Is Meta, is this what's going on with Meta? And he goes, let me look into it. So he knew a guy that worked for Meta, and he called the guy. He goes, "Hey, you mind snooping around? You know, I got this client, and you know," he goes, "I thought he was being paranoid at first, but in fact, he's lost like 6,000. They just keep pulling him away." And by the way, if you look at my thing, it shows more people coming in every day. So if 200 people come in, they were taking away 250, right? So it was always a downward thing.
Trend, yeah.
So even an idiot like me can see that.
Mm.
Well, the guy looked into it and he called my guy back and he said, "Yeah." He goes, "Meta has him locked down. Someone decided to lock him down." And I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, they don't want anyone to see his message. So someone in that organization or a group of people don't want his message out there. So not only are they doing that, but they're taking people away." So the guy told my buddy, he goes, "Look, you can spend 3, 4, 5 grand and get him unlocked. There's ways to do that. It's going to cost money." He said, "But I would suggest that he doesn't do it." And my guy said, "Why?" And he said, "Because as soon as he becomes unlocked and they see that he's unlocked, they're going to lock him down again. So it'll just be wasted money, wasted time, money, resources." So that was that. Now I found a way to beat the system and I've been using that way. So I've gone from 92,000. Yeah, I can tell you what I'm up to. Look right now in real time. They had me down to 92,000. Not that your audience would even care about this. Okay, now I'm at 94,000. So I've picked up a couple of thousand people because I'm almost at 94,100, which is significant, right? And your audience would say, "Why do you care?" It's like, I don't really care, but it's good to know that people are trying to control messages out in the world. You know, I like knowing who my adversaries are and what they're trying to do.
Sure.
They're not just doing it to me. And by the way, they do it in politics, they do it with food, they do it with everything. And some people will sit there, 50% of people will sit there and go, "I don't give a fuck. They're not doing it to my people."
Right.
They will eventually come for you. You know, that's what happens in the world. You might not care right now, but you should, because eventually they're coming for you.
Sweet. What an uplifting thought. That brings us to, remember at the beginning when I asked you to explain why you say your good intentions have been stolen?
Yeah.
Well, that leads directly to this.
Right.
Your good intentions have been stolen, and there's a phrase, and it's really funny because for years I've been, every once in a while I would just ask you questions like, "Well, what the fuck is keto? What is certified keto? Who certifies that? What is certified keto?" And you would tell me the same thing every time. You'd say, "Nobody certifies it. That's a bullshit word." And that brings me to, your good intentions have been stolen in the form of keto. You have a new documentary coming out this year, 2024, like in days,
Yeah.
um, from when we record this. It's called Dirty Keto. Again, you're the director.
Yeah.
Why did you feel the need to make this film? Because this is a little bit different than your previous films, as far as kind of the topic. This time you're, well, in your own words, I heard you say, in this one, you're kind of going after yourself. You're going after the keto people. You're going after the you're going after the people who, um, for the most part, espouse your beliefs, what you think is correct. For the most part, they do. They go about it a different way, but so you said yourself you're going after kind of your people. So why did you feel the need to make this film?
My bottom line is I I don't have any dog in the fight. All I care about, you know, there's a lot of "this is my truth" in the world, right?
Sure.
There's a universal truth. And when you're me and you're basically an idiot savant, you're looking to get to the universal truth. And and look, I'm one of the people that started this low carb movement online and started bringing it to people, along with people like Gary Taub and Lauren Cardane was there at the beginning. Names you don't even really hear anymore because it just keeps mutating. And we were loath to use the word ketogenic back then because we knew that most doctors would go, that's ketoacidosis and they're going to kill people. So I wanted to stay away from that, and I did. But the word ketogenic started becoming what they called it, and I got shortened to keto. And as soon as you have something out there that's in the zeitgeist, industry is going to pick up on it and start making stuff. At first, it was small companies. It was people like me going, hey, I can get into this keto game and make keto chocolate and keto cookies and keto. And so when I used to go talk at these keto events back in, like 9, 10 years ago when they first started, I was like a rock star there. It's like, oh, this is one of the guys. We got one of the guys here, right? And I would go up on stage and do my dog and pony, and everyone would love it. And, you would go out into, they would always have like a hall, and people would have little booths set up and trying to hog their wares. And for the most part, it was all pretty innocent. I remember one guy was trying to sell cocoa fat, right? He just took these dollops of just the fat from cocoa. And he said, hey, you could just eat them like this, and it's just a big dose of fat when you're hiking, or you could put it in coffee and mix some fat into your coffee.
So do you mean like cocoa nut, or do you mean cocoa like from chocolate?
You can get the fat from cocoa, right?
Okay.
You cook it down.
Okay.
And so there's no sugar, there's nothing else. It's just, it's the same as almost like getting coconut oil, right? It was just a different tasting coconut oil is what you're getting. And people were selling their brands of coconut oil, and it was all pretty innocent. A couple of people were trying to sell bone broth. That's a tough business to be in because it's heavy to ship and it's hard to make and it's expensive. And those were the kind of things that were out there. And I agree with all of them. But as I would go to more and more of these conventions, the conventions got bigger and bigger. And the area where they're selling stuff under these, the booths, these booths, I started seeing stuff like keto, keto bread and, keto chocolate treats and keto brownies. And I'm like, what are we doing here? And that's when they all wanted me to try their product because they all wanted to come advertise on a podcast, right? So I would say, oh, thanks. Look, I'm not hungry right now. Let me just take it back and I'll have it later on, but I'll get in touch. Give me your card, right? Because I'm not going to sit there and eat some crappy thing. I don't know what's in it and the whole thing. So I would just collect all this stuff and I would go back to my hotel room and go through the product list and what it was. And none of it was keto, right? You start seeing these funny names for sugar like allulose, and they were using monk fruit and agave, which is just like any other sugar. I mean, it's like, well, wait a minute, there's nothing keto about this. They're saying sugar-free and this and that because they're using other types of sugar, a lot of erythritol, and they were using ancient grains instead of grains, but it's still grains, and they were using arrowroot powder, which is just as carby as anything else. And I was like, wow, this is such bullshit. And then another year or two passed. I'm at these same conventions, and now they're saying keto certified. And that's when I was like, okay, now someone's certifying this. Is this a government agency? What's going on? And that's what got me down that road. This film started in my head back in 2016, 2017, when I started seeing this stuff coming around, keto certified, keto certified. And then you see big companies doing it, right? You see it in the grocery stores. It's not just a little guy.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Everything is keto certified. So I just kept going down that rabbit hole. So when I was making Beyond Impossible, I was also simultaneously making Dirty Keto. So people go, how do you get them out so fast? No, I work on them for years, right? Ever since I figured out how to make movies with Peter Pardini, for that first one, I went, oh, this is how you do it. And I just work on them sometimes in tandem or simultaneously. So that was the beginning of Dirty Keto. Was why is everything keto certified? Who's certifying them? And you saw the movie. You saw what was in it, right?
Correct. Yeah, I did. That's wild. That is some wild shit. It made me laugh quite heartily.
I
I
had to
like
cut those. Let me just say this. I had to cut the names out. My attorneys made me cut the names out.
of the people.
Yeah, notice I just say this guy
Yeah.
was a cage fighter and that person
Mhm.
was a music producer. It's just a bunch of people got together and said, hey, let's just buy this term keto certified and we'll put it out there. Doesn't mean anything.
How come there's no certified NSNG anything except yours, and you don't say certified, you just say NSNG? How come you don't do the same thing but with NSNG?
I own NSNG. I own the
Hmm.
trademark. I could put certified NSNG because I own it, right? I'll tell you this today. Um, I could have made so much money on so many people want to use NSNG certified on products. I can be rolling around in a Ferrari as my daily driver. I'm just being honest. I could be a very, very wealthy man just on what I would get to certify products in the grocery store with NSNG certified. But I can't because I would become them, right? I would be rich, but I would become them. Can't do it.
Um, you talk. There's one point. It's toward the beginning where at one point you of this new film again, Dirty Keto, where you say, "I guess I should introduce myself," and then you say, "My name is Vinnie Tortorich, and I'm mostly known for blah blah whatever." Um, I was, and this is the narcissist in me. I was waiting for you to say, "I'm best known for having the most appearances on Fascination Street podcast."
I thought about it. That was in the original cut, but
It's in the director's cut. Got it.
yeah, it's like, we can't name drop like that. It's a bit
Makes sense.
gratuitous, and so we decided not to. But maybe in future films, if
Sure.
I,
Yeah. Next time. Next
yeah,
time.
yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Vinny, what is a Franken food?
Just think of Frankenstein, right? It's pieces and parts of everything put together, and it's not anything our system is meant to recognize, right?
Give me an example.
Mm. Um, geez. Well, going back to Beyond Impossible, you know, any of the meats that claim to be better than actual beef, right, from a cat, from cattle, would be a frankenfood. They tell you, oh, it's got more protein, it's got more of this, it's got more vitamin. Nothing of the sort. Number one, that's all lies. Number two, it's not a complete protein. It's not a complete, you know, yeah, it's just put together products.
So a Franken food is like much like Frankenstein. It's monster. A Franken food is something that was basically put together in a lab.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
not.
lab grown.
All right. Cool.
And
Rad.
by the way, some countries, Italy being one, decided, hey, no Franken meat. It's and by the way, it's not just Franken meat. You could take that to anything that, you know, tofurkey, prime example. It's not turkey. There's no turkey in it. It's just soy product, mushed together, faking, you know, that's a Franken food. It's made of all kinds of crap.
Yeah. The Beyond and the Impossible. I call that feet, like fake meat. I just call it feet.
I like that. It probably tastes like feet also.
um.
Guessing.
Okay, so this is a weird question, but hear me out. So your podcast, you do have a video element to it now, but for the bulk of those 2,500 episodes, for the first however many years, it was an audio only podcast, right? Like a
Mm,
lot of things.
yeah.
Audio only is more versatile. You can't watch a podcast while you're driving to work. You can listen to one. You can listen to one while you're on a ladder. You can listen to one while you're working out.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Is there going to be an audio only file available for Dirty Keto? And more to the point, should you release an audio only file for all of your films? Because there are some pieces, especially in the first 2 or 3 movies, there are some pieces where it helps to have a visual to know what you're looking at. But specifically this one, more than any of the other ones, I mean, I get to see your beautiful face and that's cool, but this is something that somebody could listen to while they're riding a stationary bicycle or a real bicycle or lifting weights or fucking jogging or driving to work. And because the information flows so freely and is so well done and pretty to the point, there's not a whole lot of, hilariously enough, there's not a whole lot of fat in this thing. It's really all the meat and the goods. I think it would really, really turn out well as an audio, like just release the audio. I'm not saying do it for free. Fuck no, but I think that there should be an audio version. I mean, we all listen to podcasts now. Why not that?
You just gave me an idea.
I saw you writing it down. You're welcome,
I
everybody.
wrote it down. Now, I don't know what the implications are on the first 3 documentaries. I don't know if I can do it. Not even.
Are they all through Gravitas?
Yeah, the first 3 are all Gravitas. I'm putting the 4th one out myself.
Mm-hmm.
This is a departure from what I've been doing, and I'm only releasing this one on Amazon. So there's nothing stopping me from making just an audio version of it. And I might be able to sell them on Audible. I just don't know who owns what and if I'm allowed to do that.
Sure.
But boy, what a great idea. Thank you, Steve.
You're
And
welcome.
you will get
I'm full of great ideas.
you will get exactly 0 residuals from that idea.
Dude, I better.
You know what? I will send you something if I doubt that I'll be able to get the first 3 audios.
That's fine.
Maybe I can change them up a bit and just make them their own thing.
Sure.
You know, and get around it that way. But I wrote it when you said that, I went, that's one of the most brilliant. I'm sorry. That's one of the most fascinating ideas I think I've ever heard.
Love it. I'm awesome. You are welcome,
You are.
everybody.
And by the way, I'm going to go listen to them in audio and see if it flies, because it might not fly.
Well, this one will for sure. Because I was paying attention to that while I was watching it. I was like, oh yeah, this would definitely work. Plus, it's only like an hour. So
Yeah.
it makes it eminently more digestible.
Yeah. And it's mostly me narrating all the way through, right? It's, you know, as Dr. Drew said to me, I'm name dropping again, in my last documentary,
You mean 2-time previous guest of my show, Dr. Drew?
Yeah, that doctor. He's a fascinating man. Drew wrote to me after I put up Beyond Impossible, and he said, thank you for interjecting yourself more into your documentary. And I wrote back and I said, Drew, I did it because I can't afford anyone else. You know, I work for free for me. But he said, yeah, it really worked. That's why I had the confidence to go into this one. And it does kind of read like a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe we can sell it on Amazon for $1 or something. I don't know. Maybe on iTunes for $1.
Sure.
Maybe
I mean,
on
why not?
the website for $1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this film, you said that you take MCT oil every day.
That's correct.
In all of your many companies and products that you offer and own, is MCT oil one of your products, or do you recommend something else? Is it just coconut oil? Like what? I mean, you don't have to give away all your secrets, but if you don't sell an MCT oil, what do you use?
I use coconut oil that I buy from Trader Joe's. That's the best. Coconut oil is the best form of MCT oil, because any kind of, like, you could go buy more expensive stuff that they've taken the coconut flavor out of, and they've refined it down to just MCT. And if you do that and you take just a little too much, you're not going to make it to the bathroom. right? But
Mhm.
with coconut oil, you have a lot more leeway. You could take a lot more and never get stomach distress. Your stomach builds up an immunity to it.
So
Um,
how do you take this? Do you just eat a spoonful of it? Do you put it in your
yeah,
coffee?
yeah. Some people like to put it in coffee and this and that, but unless you whiz it up in coffee,
It all
then
just floats like an oil
it
slick
kind of
at the
floats
top,
on top, which is not bad because your lips get a nice coating of the MCT oil. I like coffee to taste like coffee.
which is
So
why you own a coffee company.
yeah, yeah, I like to make coffee that's our motto. We make coffee that actually tastes like coffee.
Nice.
Um, so I just take a scoop. There's a jar. It's only my jar. I don't double scoop because I don't want bacteria going, but I just take one nice big spoonful, sometimes up to 3 times a day, at least once, sometimes
So,
most times.
sort of like the same way that some people will just go grab a big spoonful of peanut butter, kind of like that. You just grab a spoonful and move on
Yeah,
about your
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Okay.
just regular spoon and I'll just eat it. Um, I also make a product at NSNG Foods called UltraFat, which is a combination of pure coconut oil and almond butter, and we put just a little fresh vanilla in there, and we add ultra salt from my vitamin company, and it was made for people like if you're out and about on a trail or you're hiking the Grand Canyon or just outdoor people, runners, cyclists, motorcyclists, and I'm just naming people that were buying it at first. Enduro riders need to eat while they're out on those trails and whatever. And then we found out that it started selling like hotcakes. We couldn't keep up. And we found out that people were buying it to put in their kids' lunch boxes. It became very popular with moms. So yeah, it's crossed over from kind of like Gatorade used to just be for football players in the South. And now Gatorade is in every convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way this product is. It's taken a life of its own.
Love it. What is the glycemic index and why should I care?
The glycemic index tells you how much sugar is in a product. And I'm going to give you an easy way of understanding. Sugar is 100.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a 100. So anything falls between 0 and 100. So let's take the aforementioned coconut oil. That would be a 0 on the glycemic scale. So you can eat all the coconut oil you want, and you will never get an insulin reaction from it. Once you start climbing the scale, you'll get more of an insulin reaction. And our bodies are set up to handle insulin from carbohydrates, right? So whenever there's carbohydrates present in your liver, your body, you release insulin to come in and cover it. And what that insulin does is it turns that sugar, it moves some of it into your blood so you can maintain homeostasis. It keeps a little bit in your liver and it puts a little bit in your muscles because there was a time when we had to run away from saber-toothed tigers. And we had that quick energy from what was in our muscles and blood and liver to do so. Well, when you start getting too much carbohydrate, meaning you these higher, all these processed junk foods now, and you see people walking around with big 64-ounce Cokes and eating like the whole pint of ice cream, that used to be shared by 3 people and this kind of thing. Your insulin level, your sugar levels, your glycemic index stays high. So your body has to keep releasing insulin. And that's why you should care because when it keeps releasing insulin, you become resistant to the insulin. It doesn't do its job anymore. So you end up becoming type 2 diabetic. Did I put that in a way that people can understand it?
I think so. I think that was pretty broken down.
Yeah.
Um, as a side note, you mentioned people walking around carrying a big old, 32-ounce cup or whatever all day. A few years ago, I was working at a bank and there was this young lady who she had this, I swear to God, it was a half gallon. She had this massive cup with her everywhere she went, big old straw sticking out of it. Everywhere she went, she cradled this cup like it was a baby. And she was not the healthiest looking person.
Mhm.
And I said to my friend, I said, "Hey man, what do you think is in that cup?" And he took a second and he goes, "I don't know, but looking at her, I'd say probably like gravy." And I could not stop laughing. It was one of the funniest things that guy ever said. I still think about it all the time, and that was fucking 15 years ago. Um, okay, this is a little weird. Do I have a few more minutes with you? I don't know what your
You
schedule
got
is.
oh, you're fascinating, man. You got
Ah, I
time in the
love
world.
you, bro. Okay, so there's this thing trending all over like TikTok and Instagram and a few other places. Have you seen this thing? It's from places like gatheredtable.com and lifehacker.com that says, and I quote, researchers have discovered that freezing, defrosting, and then eating white bread can lower its GI, glycemic index, by up to 31%. Now, it's got something to do, it's like something about the starch molecules adopting a completely different structure as a result of the freezing process, blah, blah, blah. Upon further investigation, I found that this article was originally published in the PubMed section of the NIH website in either May of 2008 or April of 2007. I found both dates. Have you heard I've also heard the same thing about pasta, oddly enough, is that if you freeze it and thaw it and then eat it, it has a lower GI. Have you heard about this and what are your thoughts on it?
You don't actually have to freeze it. You can refrigerate it. And it works about the same. You could do it with any kind of complex carbohydrate. Pasta, you could do it with potatoes. You could do it with anything.
So like the day after Thanksgiving's leftover mashed potatoes actually have a lower glycemic index
Yeah, but
score?
I don't think it's 33%. I
Sure.
can tell you that. But yes, it does. It makes it, it changes the molecular structure in such a way. It doesn't change the amount of carbohydrates you're getting. So understand that you're still getting all the carbs, but some of them become what's known as resistant carbs,
And
right?
what are they resistant to? Being
Um,
digested and broken down?
yeah, and but more so, they move slower through your stomach. These resistance carbs. I'll tell you another one. You ever hear of Uncle Ben's converted bran rice?
Okay, so when I read that, it immediately brought me back to a conversation that you had with Adam Carolla on his show about Uncle Ben's converted rice. And this would have been probably 5 or 6 years ago, but it was such a fascinating conversation that it immediately came back to the forefront of my mind. Please continue with Uncle Ben's converted rice.
Yeah, that's a resistant starch. So it's less starchy than white rice or brown rice. And by the way, white rice and brown rice is identical. It's just a different color. Some people tend to think brown rice is healthier because it doesn't taste as good. But that's just a fact. People go, oh, it must be healthier. It tastes different. Um,
Mhm.
so, you know, so people are going to say, wait, is Vinny saying I can have these? No, it's still a snake bite. Whether the copperhead gave you the full dose or you were able to pull away and it only got a half a dose in you, you still have a problem, right? So some of the carbohydrate has been slowed down in your system, kind of the same thing that a GLP-1 does, Wegovy and all this kind of stuff, Ozempic. But it's not enough to make a difference. And if you're metabolically broken, it's not going to make any difference at all. Um, you're basically playing with fire. Again, it's one of those things where, yeah, in a lab this works. Yeah, we've lowered it by X amount, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't give you carte blanche to go and eat Uncle Ben's rice or stuff that you froze and then unfrozen. Well, no, it always has to be cooked and then either refrigerated or frozen and then reheated. But it's academic. Don't do it, folks. Again, your good intentions have been stolen.
Okay, back to your film. Again, it's called Dirty Keto. By the time you hear this, it's available, I would say everywhere, but only on Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, are you concerned about getting sued by any of the companies that you mentioned by name in this documentary?
No, because I'm not disparaging any of the companies. I'm just saying, hey, here's what they do. No one's going to come after you for that. Right. I didn't say that, hey, these people are running a ring of drugs across the border or something. I'm just saying, hey, here's what they do. Now, you want to take me to court on that? You think you're going to win? Right. And do you really want people to see, you know, they don't want to show their slip, right? So they're not going to actually do it.
Sort of like the Streisand effect, right? Where like, um, she threw a fit because I think it was like Google Earth or some that somebody showed like a picture of her house.
Right.
Well, only maybe, I don't know, 1% of people on the internet knew that until she threw a fit. And
Right.
then 80% of the internet knew about it.
Right.
So kind of that way, like they're not going to come sue you because then that would just draw more attention to the thing that they didn't want you to say in the first place.
Right. They just want this to go by. But you got to realize the most money I spend on any documentary, you would think it was editing and all this kind of stuff. It's attorneys. They go through every frame, fine tooth comb. That's why I had to pull the names out of those people. There's a lot of things that
Yeah,
get
that's
pulled
why you
out.
had to pull out the name of my show. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Fascination Street podcast right in the heart of the movie. And they said, we can't get this guy on the phone. He seems to, be elusive. Um, but yeah, that's, every frame is gone through and, kind of bulletproofed.
Well, that answers that. Um, Again, the new film, this is your fourth documentary. It's called Dirty Keto. When does it come out? Like I said, it'll be out by the time people hear this, but what day does it come out officially?
It's supposed to be out on the 30th on Amazon. Now, we had to load it up a month ago. They tell you it takes a month and the whole thing. It could be out on the 29th. It could be out on the 31st or the 1st of June. But we're told the date we were given was the 30th. So, like I said, we're at the mercy of Amazon when they want to actually drop it. I don't see why. I mean, they have everything they need, right? Everything is loaded in, everything is all I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And so the 30th is when I'm told it's coming out.
Gotcha. And again, it's only going to be on Amazon. At least for now. Maybe someday down the road you'll make a different decision, but for right now, it's only going to be on Amazon.
Yeah, I want people to go there and get it. And if it does well, and we're doing well with it, months down the road, 6, 7 months down the road, we might put it on different platforms, like I don't know, Tubi and some of these things people like watching. But that will be a long time before
One
that.
of the things that I would encourage everyone to do who is interested in seeing this film is to watch it immediately and then rate it.
Yeah.
Rate, because like everything in the modern world, all of the algorithms and all of the movement and the prestige or whatever, all of the glimpses are really, really based on, especially initially, rating and reviews. So watch it. If this is your, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But if this is your thing, watch it and then rate it. Um, Vinny, one of the things that you say, and you've always said this, and it's one of my favorite things about you, even though you're a dietitian, or no, you're not a dietitian, you're a dietary fitness dude. Like that's
Yeah.
your ethos. Um, One of the things that you say is if you're gonna splurge, do the real thing. Here's an
Yeah.
example. Um, I eat meat every day. I love meat. It's great. So I turned 50 yesterday. For my
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
thank you. For my birthday meal, my wife was saying to herself, "Oh, this dude probably wants a big fat steak. He probably wants, a chicken, whatever." And so she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want that pasta dish that you make. It's like, I don't know, ziti alla cecca or some shit like that. I don't remember what it's called, but
Yeah.
it's goddamn delightful." And my favorite part of the thing that you say is, okay, so last night I had pasta and I had a lot of it because it was my fucking birthday.
Yeah.
And I didn't have chickpea pasta. I didn't have whole wheat pasta. I didn't have fucking whatever. I didn't have hearts of palm pasta. I had actual real, I don't know, barilla pasta. That's what I had. Actual real pasta. Because if I'm gonna splurge and eat pasta, I want the real shit. Why would I put that mealy, falling apart other garbage? If I'm gonna do it, do it. Now, again, that said, and you say as well, I mean, don't do it all the time. That's why it's a special occasion or whatever. But if you're gonna do
Yeah.
it, do the real thing. Because if you're gonna do it, get all the enjoyment you can out of it and then move on. Nobody enjoys eating that other weird shit
Yeah,
pasta.
you did exactly the right thing. People ask me if I ever go off of uh, eating low carb, right? Living in dietary ketosis. Usually it's around Christmas time. Thanksgiving, I usually make it through that. That's easy for me. But Christmas time, I'm usually with the in-laws, and we're in England. And I'm not gonna say, "Oh no, I don't eat that stuff." So, for the big meal, there's always that. And people go, "To any other time?" Yeah, maybe once or twice a year. And people go, "Well, do you cheat once a month?" No, no, I don't. But a few months ago, probably 3, 4 months ago, I remember when you brought up your dish. My wife says, "You know what? I really miss shrimp risotto." And my wife is an incredible cook. And I said, "You know what? Make it. Let's do it. Let's do that." And we really enjoyed a shrimp risotto that night that was second to none, right? But we don't do that once a month, right? Once every two, it happens like twice a year or whatever. And when you do it, it really is kind of special. I feel the inflammation from it the next day.
Sure. Yeah.
But the juice was worth the squeeze.
Do the real thing. If you're gonna do it, do the real thing. You're not getting that like even if I don't think there are any benefits to doing it the weird way, but if there are, it's not enough to compensate for the lack of enjoyment in the thing that is only a rarity in the first place.
Yeah, I've never tasted a keto treat or anything that came anywhere near, the real thing. I'm going to have a brownie. I'm going to have a brownie. End of
Sure.
story. You know,
Um, geez, I can't believe we got it all in. Everything that I had on my list to talk about, we got in. I only have one more final question, and uh you can either choose to not go into it or to, just go lightly, whatever you want. And again, if you don't want to talk about it, we won't.
okay.
Um, you shared recently with your audience, on your podcast, Fitness Confidential, and on social media that after all these years, after 17 years, your cancer's back. Do
Yeah,
you want to talk about that?
sure,
I
sure.
have questions.
All
I
right,
have
go.
I have questions. Um, You said in the documentary that your doctors told you it's probably going to come back within 5 years. Your goal was to pass the 5 years, and boy, did you. I mean, we're
Yeah.
17 years. What was uh, what was your emotional reaction when you found out that it was back?
No, I have no emotions about cancer. I knew it was back. I knew, I go in for a yearly blood test. At first they test you all the time, and then, I go in yearly. But there were some things that happened over the past year, and I knew it was coming back. I knew it was there. Um, One, we mentioned, climbing. I was, doing Whitney with my climbing buddy, and
Whitney Cummings, that comedian?
no,
Mount Whitney. Okay, good. Gotcha.
oh, Mount Whitney. Yeah, I would like to do Whitney Cummings, but my wife, my wife, she's such a prude,
So weird.
Yeah, and then Whitney Cummings would want to have to be with a guy like me, which I can't see that happening.
Sure.
So I was climbing Mount Whitney, and at 13,000 feet, I got really sick, meaning I was getting nauseous and lightheaded. That's not like me. I usually bebop to the top of that. It's 14.5. I bebop to the top of that, no problem. I was able to bebop to the top of Mont Blanc 2 years before that, you know, basically dancing to the top, no problem. But at 13,000 feet, I got very sick. Now I was able to summit, but it became, you know, my climbing partner was like, man, you were white around the gills the rest of the way. I had to keep stopping to try to calm down. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink water. I would have just thrown it up. Um, so I knew something was wrong. And, you know, of course, you know, you can go, man, maybe you ate something bad. No, this came on acutely at an altitude, which means my blood wasn't right. My wife noticed I would get tired quicker, right? Still exercise like a fiend. I would come back from, you know, 15 miles of kayaking and, you know, I would take a shower and take a nap. Yeah, and things like that. You know, I knew things were wrong. So when I went in for my blood test, I knew what I was going to find out. And I'm pretty pragmatic about these things. And I was like, all right, here we go. You know, chemo again, which I'm just finishing up right now. You know.
So this was a relatively short round of chemo, if I understand correctly. Like you didn't even have to get a PICC line installed, right?
No, they do it differently. I thought they were giving me, I had mentioned on the show that they were going to give me less chemo because last time I had a PICC line and it was going in me 24 hours a day. What they do is you go in for 4 hours a day for like 6 days and they pump a shit ton of chemo into you. And then the chemo is now working on me, right? So I can't go anywhere. That's why it's so easy to get me to do a podcast right now. I can't really leave the house. I can't be anywhere. Um, I don't think I'll look bad. I think I look okay. I've been exercising every day. There were several days when I couldn't. I was just kind of sick. Um, but I've been getting on my spinner at a much slower pace and my rowing machine at a slower pace and just going through the motions. It's been getting sunny here. I'll go and sit out in the sun and get some sun on my face, take my shirt off sometimes and try to get some vitamin D the natural way. You know, so I've been doing everything to help myself along, you know, and I think it's working out.
Um, I'm glad that you're pragmatic and you're not a panic stricken. Um, between you and me, probably, uh, I probably handled that news worse than you did.
Yeah, a
It
lot
was,
of people do.
I was not, that was not a good few days for me. But after hearing you be all calm and, like you said, pragmatic about it, it made me feel better. Like your shit is about me.
Well, look, a lot of people, you know, the aforementioned Dr. Drew called me as soon as he saw it on the internet. And he was like, oh my God, oh my God. I was like, I was calming Drew down. I was like, come on, Drew, we got
Sure.
this, you know, and then I was able to explain what I'm on and what they're doing, and he knew all about it. And you know, so yeah, people hear cancer and they really get fucked up. My wife is fucked up about it, right? Oh my God, I'm gonna lose you. Oh my God, oh my God. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here.
Rad. Now, I know that you said you're doing like you did some rowing and stuff, and you're doing those kinds of things inside your house because right now just really can't get sick from being out in whatever in the world or whatever, right?
I'm not allowed to go out in public, so it's kind of like the pandemic all over again for me.
Sure.
I don't have they take my blood once a week and this week was stable over last week, which is a good thing. But those numbers are all below the line. You know, there's a ton of counts that are below the line. So I can't get an infection because an infection. Gina Grad, who's been on your show, her dad had exactly the same cancer I had. And her dad was in impeccable shape. Guy ran every day.
Her dad, by the way, Steve Grad, he actually was a million years ago. I think it was before she was even born. He was like a sports newscaster, I think on the radio here in San Antonio, where I am.
Yeah, Steve Grad was a big deal in sports. And he had exactly the same leukemia I had, and his PICC line got infected, and that's what took him out,
Mm.
killed him. You know, so that's always on my mind. Every time I go, oh, I could just go to the grocery store. I was like, no, honey, you need to go. I can't get infected, you know. So,
Well, don't. So, since you're rowing inside right now, and I know that that's just temporary, but since I am a complete and total douche, I'm gonna say this, and I'm only gonna say it once, and you don't even have to answer. Since you're rowing inside, uh, and I don't know, like last year, or maybe even the year before, you built a kayak, like built it like from wood, and it took you forever because you did it, and it's beautiful. Can I have it
um,
now?
if I die, yes, you can
No,
have
I just meant in general. So you're not going to
it.
die, but can I have it? Can I
Sure.
have it while you're still alive?
If you come and pick it up, it's all yours. Um,
Be careful. That's how I made friends with Clint Howard.
what, you built a canoe and
No, he made his hobby, at least for a time, his hobby was making snow globes, and he made one um like for me, but
really,
he wouldn't ship it. He was like, "Well, I can't ship it because it's too fragile. So you can only have it if you come get it." Boy, did oh, and the other caveat was I couldn't take it on a plane because it's full of liquid, so I would have to drive it back, and I did.
so you went all the way out to California and got a snow globe from,
Yeah, that first time when I met you, that first trip out to
yeah.
California, that was one of the reasons I went to LA was for that.
I wonder if he would make one for me. I'm a Clint Howard fan.
I don't know if he would. And here's the funny thing. I'm the only person whose last name is not Howard that owns a Clint Howard snow globe. His
Really?
brother has one, his nephew has one, his niece has one. He has a bunch, but I'm the only one not named Howard who has one.
I love snow globes. I love the Christmassy snow globes. I don't own any, but I love seeing them, and I've often considered getting into them.
So because he has a perverse sense of humor, you probably don't know this, but my job, I own a window washing business, and so I'm climbing ladders and doing people's windows and all that other shit. And so he made a snow globe, which he thought was really cute. He was like, "Oh, just imagine if you were like a girl." And so he made a snow globe of like this high-heeled wearing girl who's dressed basically like Daisy Duke, holding onto a ladder with a squeegee in one hand, wearing high heels. And he made that. He made that, and it's right outside of this room here. I fucking love that
Which
thing.
makes no sense because no one cleans their windows in the winter when it's snowing.
And they also don't do it in high heels. But
Hi.
hey, that's that's Clint for you.
I like the way he thinks that. Yeah, I think Clint is at least my age, maybe a little
He
older.
he's a little older. Yeah, he turned 65 a month
Yeah.
ago yesterday. Yeah.
I loved him in Ben, what was it?
Gentle Ben.
Gentle Ben and yeah. The guy is a great actor. Always been a big fan.
Dude's rad. He's rad as
Yeah.
hell. Vinny, I think I have taken up enough of your time today. I am going to keep hounding you about that audio only file, especially for this last one, Dirty Keto, because I think it's a great idea. Oh, real quick, one thing. I've been thinking about doing this thing because you've just been on my mind lately, even before I heard about what you're going through right now. But I've been thinking about doing this thing where every once in a while I'll just like Instagram a picture of something that you probably don't have in your house because of who you are, and then just explaining what it is. Like like uh, I'll just post a picture of a pie server and say, Vinny, this is a pie server. And I'm saying this because you probably don't have one, and I want you to be informed and know what all these things are. And then like the next time it'll be like a rolling pin. And Vinny, this is a rolling pin. You probably don't have one in your house, but I want you to be informed.
Yeah, that's funny because I did an Instagram once. We had guests coming over, and my wife went out and bought a toaster.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
I did
toaster was
say,
on my
like,
list.
does anyone know what this is and how to use it? And got a bunch of great comments about that. But yeah, I love that idea.
I'm probably still gonna do it just to make me laugh. Um,
Here's a pizza cutter. Do you know what to do with it?
exactly. That's also on my list. Like I got all this crazy shit. I'm just like, I bet he doesn't have one. This is a bread knife, Vinny. um, one of those dumbass rice cookers that really is just for rice. It's so weird. Um, Vinny, again. everybody, 2024 documentary is called Dirty Keto. It's probably going to come out more or less the last day of May, somewhere around there. It's only going to be on Amazon. Everybody go check it out. And again, rate it and review it. Vinny, where can people find you if they want to hear more about your silly self?
Just put my stupid name into the Google machine, and everything comes up.
It's a VIN and a big fat Y right at the end, right?
Yeah, VINNIE.
Oh, no wimpy Y, ladies and gentlemen.
No, and Tortorich, and go figure out how to spell that. If you put in Vinnie Tor, the rest probably populates. Because I used to be one of the most famous Vinnies, but there's Vinnie Jones and there's Vinnie Guadagnino. Other Vinnies have come around, so I'm not the most popular Vinnie on internet anymore. There's a drummer named Vinnie too, and I think he's more popular than me. But at any rate, yeah, you just put my name into the Google machine. I'm on Instagram unless they take me down. You can find me on YouTube where I'm hidden because they don't want anyone to see me, and on and on and on. I'm out there.
And again, multiple, what do you use? Like 5 times a week, Fitness Confidential, the podcast. It's everywhere.
We dropped it to 3 times a week because
lazy.
You could call it lazy, but what we figured out was people would say, "Hey, you should have this guest on," and we just had that guest on like 3 weeks ago, and they were go, "Oh yeah, you put out so many shows, I can't watch them all. I can't hear them all," and even my buddy Corolla, who used to do 5 a week, dropped to 4 for the same reason that people can't keep up with a show every day, and
That's
they start
a lot
shows. So we found that less is more. By doing less shows, each show gets way more listeners because they're able to keep up, as more digestible. So we dropped from 5 down to 3 about 2 years ago.
Okay, cool. Fitness Confidential, the podcast, everybody. It's and also Gina is on there every week, and then Anna Vicino.
Yeah.
Again, Anna Vicino, previous guest of the show. She's on there all the time too. It's a lot of fun as well as informative. You guys go all over the place. It's a good time. Everybody check that out. And oh my gosh, Vinny, as we're heading out here for the record-breaking 6th time, is there anything that I didn't ask you or we didn't talk about that you specifically wanted to talk about today, man? We covered the big bits.
No, you covered it all. I thought you got the cancer out. I thought you were going to leave that out, but I'm glad you brought it up. No, I think we got it all. Yeah. No, I think we covered everything.
Rad. Well, again, 100% my pleasure. I enjoy talking to you every single time. You always bring it. I feel like we always have a pretty good rapport, and I'm pulling for you, buddy. Yeah, I mean, I guess about the cancer thing, but this Dirty Keto, dude, go get it.
I appreciate it. And look, folks, if I sell enough copies, I will ship my cedar strip kayak right to Steve.
Oh shit, son. Now, he didn't say how many copies that is, so everybody just keep buying it.
A lot.
Everybody just keep buying it until I tell you to stop.
Yeah, until a kayak shows up in your driveway.
All right, buddy. Thank you again so much for taking time out of your busy day and your hectic making documentaries again and again and again schedule to hang out and let us get to know you even more on Fascination Street Podcast. Vinny, man, I really appreciate it.
You got it, brother. You have a great rest of your day.
You have a great rest of your day. Give your wife my best, and I will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.